What happens when Hollywood's brightest stars are suddenly left with nothing? One day, they're walking the red carpet. Next, they're sleeping on the sidewalk. These aren't just faded careers. These are stories of billion-dollar smiles hiding heartbreak, of fame turning into a curse overnight. By the time you finish this video, you'll see the price of celebrity in a way you've never imagined. And trust me, some of these names will leave you shocked. Hollywood loves to sell us the dream: flashing lights, luxury cars, designer gowns. But there's another side they never show you. A side where the cameras stop rolling, the phone stops ringing, and the same people who cheered your name suddenly can't remember it. For some stars, it takes just one bad role, one wrong headline, or one personal crisis to lose everything. And when the spotlight goes out, the fall can be brutal. From mansions in the hills to park benches downtown. It's a world built on image, but the truth is raw, ugly, and real. And the first story proves it can happen to anyone, no matter how iconic they once were. Margot Kidder wasn't just an actress. She was Lois Lane, the sharp, fearless reporter in the Superman films who stole the heart of Christopher Reeve and audiences around the world. Her career spanned over 100 roles, from cult horror hits to TV classics, and for years she seemed unstoppable. But off-screen, Margot was fighting a silent war with bipolar disorder. In 1996, everything collapsed: her finances, her health, even her home. For a time, the woman who once lit up global premieres was wandering the streets, relying on the kindness of strangers just to make it through the night. Still, Margot refused to disappear quietly. She took smaller roles, kept working, and became a voice for mental health awareness. Her journey was messy, public, and painfully human, but it was hers. And it proved that even in the darkest moments, resilience can still shine. But not every star can climb back up, and our next story shows what happens when the fall keeps going with no way back up. In the 1980s, Michael Vincent was the Hollywood heartthrob: chiseled jaw, piercing eyes, and the star of the hit series Airwolf. He shared the screen with legends, lived the dream life, and seemed untouchable. But behind the roles and magazine covers, Vincent was drowning. Fame brought him not peace, but temptation: alcohol, drugs, and a string of legal troubles that slowly eroded everything he'd built. By the early 2000s, the man who once paid millions per episode was homeless on California streets. Illness struck next. A severe infection cost him part of his leg, leaving fans shocked at the transformation from action hero to a frail, struggling survivor. Yet even then, Vincent urged others not to give up, no matter how far they'd fallen. His story is a brutal reminder that addiction doesn't just take careers, it takes futures. And for some, even early success can set the stage for an even harder fall. For millions of viewers, Erin Moran would always be Joanie Cunningham from Happy Days, the sweet, spirited little sister everyone adored. She grew up on magazine covers, in living rooms across America, and in the public eye from her early teens. But when the show ended, so did the steady work. Hollywood only saw Joanie, and casting directors couldn't imagine her as anyone else. The roles stopped coming. The money dried up. By 2010, Erin was evicted, sometimes living in her car, sometimes relying on friends for a couch to sleep on. Tabloids circled like vultures, documenting every hardship: divorce, health struggles, whispers of substance abuse. It was the kind of media feeding frenzy that turned private pain into public spectacle. In 2017, she passed away from complications of throat cancer, leaving behind a bittersweet legacy: a character forever loved and a life that showed just how quickly the industry can forget its stars. And if you think that kind of fall only happens after decades in the business, the next story proves it can hit in the very first chapter of a career. Leif Garrett was the kind of teen idol who could make an arena full of fans scream with just a smile. Blonde hair, perfect jawline, pop hits like I Was Made for Dancin'. By the late 70s, he wasn't just famous, he was everywhere. But fame came before maturity, and without the right guidance, the pressure crushed him. Garrett slid into drugs at a young age, setting off decades of arrests, failed rehab stints, and public meltdowns. The boy who once lived in luxury found himself broke, couch-hopping, and at times homeless. Every comeback attempt, reality TV appearances, small music projects ended the same way. A flash of promise, followed by another fall. Today, he's still fighting to keep his life on track, living far from the spotlight he once owned. It's a reminder that in Hollywood, the applause can fade faster than you're ready for, and not every star survives the silence. And as you're about to see, some spirals end in tragedy long before the world is ready to say goodbye. Dana Plato was America's sweetheart as Kimberly Drummond, on Different Strokes. Pretty, wholesome, and adored. But when the show ended, Hollywood had no place for her. Work dried up, bills piled in. And to numb the pain, Dana turned to pills, falling deeper into addiction until it cost her her home, her health, and her freedom. In 1999, at just 34, she was gone. A prescription overdose that crushed her fans and exposed the industry's blind spot for mental health. Mindy McCready's fall was just as heartbreaking. A country music powerhouse in the 90s, she had the voice, the looks, and the hits to last a lifetime. But the spotlight masked a storm. Addiction, toxic relationships, and legal battles that stripped her of her career. Just weeks after losing her boyfriend to suicide, Mindy followed the same tragic path in 2013, leaving behind 2 young children and a trail of songs filled with the pain she couldn't escape. 2 women, 2 different worlds, but the same brutal truth. Without the right support, even the brightest stars can fade to black far too soon. And while some lose that battle completely, others somehow find the strength to claw their way back.
Willie Ames had it all in the 70s. Teen idol status, hit roles, and 8 is enough, and the kind of fame most young actors could only dream about. But when the offers stopped coming, depression and addiction crept in. Within a few years, the red carpet was replaced by park benches. By 2007, he was homeless, living on the streets of Vancouver. But Willie didn't stay there. He got clean, started helping others battling addiction, and rebuilt his life. Not into the same career he had before, but into something stronger. A man who survived and now inspires. Natasha Lyonne's journey was just as raw. Before Orange is the New Black and Russian Doll, she was a rising child star with an unstable home life and a growing drug habit. By 2005, she was homeless in New York, sick and nearly out of chances. But she clawed her way back. Rehab, recovery, and a return to acting that brought her not just roles, but respect. Today, she uses her platform to speak openly about addiction and mental health, proving that survival isn't just possible, it can lead to a second act even better than the first. These are the stories Hollywood doesn't like to tell, the ones where the comeback is harder than the rise. And yet, as you'll see next, even legends aren't immune to the fall. Marvin Gaye was more than a singer. He was the soul of a generation. What's Going On, Let's Get It On, Sexual Healing, his voice could move the world. But behind the music was a man battling addiction, financial ruin, and bitter family conflict. At one point, he was living in Europe just to escape the IRS. His life ended violently in 1984 when he was shot and killed by his own father, one day before his 45th birthday. A loss that still echoes in music history. MC Hammer danced his way into the 90s record books, earning over $30 million a year with hits like You Can't Touch This. But wild spending, a 200-person entourage, and endless generosity drained it all. By 1996, he was $14 million in debt. Hammer didn't quit. He reinvented himself as an entrepreneur and motivational speaker. But his story remains a warning about how fast fortune can vanish. Wesley Snipes was Hollywood's action king, slicing through screens as Blade, but tax evasion charges brought his career to a screeching halt. 3 years in federal prison stripped away his star power, and when he got out, the blockbuster offers were gone. He's worked his way back in smaller roles, but the peak is long past. 3 different legends, 3 different paths, but the same truth. Fame doesn't make you untouchable. And for some, the fall takes a stranger, even more twisted turn. Randy Quaid was once a Hollywood favorite, an Oscar nominee and a comedic staple in National Lampoon's Vacation. But his later years became a maze of strange behavior, legal troubles, and wild claims. He and his wife fled to Canada, saying they were being hunted by a shadowy group they called the Hollywood Star Whackers. Whether you saw him as a whistleblower or a man lost in paranoia, his fall from grace was unlike anything the industry had seen. John Drew Barrymore had a last name that carried more weight than most careers. Son of acting royalty, father to Drew Barrymore. But with the family legacy came crushing pressure and the lure of self-destruction. Addiction, arrests, and Hollywood blacklisting left him drifting through life far from the promise of his early roles. By the time he reconnected with his daughter late in life, the decades of loss were irreversible. Others faded without spectacle. Amanda Peterson, the teen dream from Can't Buy Me Love, died at 43 after years away from the spotlight, her struggles with trauma and prescription drugs hidden from the world. Corey Haim, an 80s heartthrob from The Last Boys, lost a long war with addiction at just 38. Aaron Carter grew up as the little brother of a Backstreet Boy, but spiraled through public breakdowns and financial ruin before his tragic death at 34. And then there's Todd Bridges, proof that some can claw their way out. From child star on Different Strokes to years of arrests and addiction, he rebuilt himself into a public speaker and advocate. His survival is a rare bright spot in a list otherwise filled with endings. In the end, some stories burn out with chaos, others fade into whispers, and a few fight their way back from the edge. But all of them remind us that behind the name, the lights, and the fame, there's a human being who can only take so much. Fame is sold as a dream, but for many it's a dream with a sharp edge. Behind every red carpet smile could be years of debt, depression, addiction, or loneliness. Some fight their way back, others disappear without warning, and a few leave us far too soon. These stories aren't just about celebrities, they're about people. People who laughed, cried, made mistakes, and tried to survive under a spotlight that can burn as much as it shines. So next time you see a flawless photo or a perfect interview, remember, you're only seeing the surface. The real story might be darker, messier, and far more human than you think. Who do you think is still hiding a story the world hasn't heard yet? Drop their name in the comments and they might be in our next video. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell because the next chapter of Hollywood's hidden truths is coming sooner than you think.